Hey everyone, Woodstock here. So, full disclosure, I initially wanted to do a retrospective on the first phase of the MCU to commemorate the 10th anniversary of the Avengers, but time kinda got away from me, so I thought doing a video about Doctor Strange and the Scarlet Witch would actually be more appropriate given what's about to come out in the next few days, or what's just recently dropped, depending on when this video actually comes out. So here we are now. Time to entertain you. I'm pretty sure most of you know the gist of these two projects, but I'll give you a plot summary before the reviews anyhow. So with all that said, take it away, Mr. Cumberbatch.
Now, shall we begin?
Stephen Strange is a world-class neurosurgeon and more than a bit of a cocky son of a gun. He can save lives with the same ease as ordering a pizza. This arrogance then turns around to bite him in the ass when he decides to check his phone while on the road and winds up getting into an accident that smashes up his hand something awful. Stephen tries everything from surgery to physical therapy to just positive thinking, but he can't get his greatest tools back to their original status. Nothing really works until the positive thinking trick leads him to Nepal and a woman called the Ancient One. The Ancient One and her students instruct Stephen in the mystic arts, with Stephen taking to the power of magic at a shockingly quick rate, even learning how to harness the power of the Eye of Agamotto. Stephen's training is interrupted, however, by the arrival of none other than Caecilius, a former student of the Ancient One who explains that he intends to prevent people from dying by stopping time completely by bringing the being Dormammu and his dark dimension to Earth. Realizing that this is probably a stupid idea, Strange eventually defeats Dormammu by introducing him to the very concept of time, by using the Eye of Agamotto's power over time to lock himself and Dormammu into an infinite loop, where Dormammu repeatedly kills Stephen over and over and over again until Dormammu is finally annoyed into submission. Dormammu then brings Caecilius and his followers into his dark dimension to honor their deal, a decision that they all immediately regret. With the Ancient One having fallen in battle, Stephen and Wong, one of the Ancient One's two most senior students, then return the Eye of Agamotto to the Ancient One's Nepalese school, with Wong revealing that the Eye is in fact the fifth Infinity Stone. Meanwhile, Mordo, the Ancient One's other senior student, decides to forsake magic altogether and begins his quest of stealing the power from his former master's other one-time students one at a time, believing that sorcery is the true cause of all the world's ills. Setting up for the upcoming sequel. Pros. Benedict Cumberbatch has proven to be an excellent investment on Marvel's part. He's been acing the role of Stephen Strange from the beginning and has continued to ace the role ever since. He's always been terrific as arrogant genius is, but he also does a good job at the actual dramatic scenes. Stephen is a doctor. That is his core, his center. It's the principle of his life that guides him. The Hippocratic Oath, do no harm. As such, when the time comes to actually do harm, even if in the name of self-defense, it really messes with his head, and he adamantly does not want to do more harm. When the rest of the Ancient One's students are prepared to fight and kill Caecilius and his followers, Stephen takes the third option and brings the fight to Dormammu, specifically by not fighting him. He'll allow for himself to be destroyed over and over and over again for eternity, just so that the Earth will be spared. That's heroism. The effects in this film are mind-numbing. This movie really is that scene from Inception with Elliot Page folding that building on top of itself on steroids. This movie cost somewhere in the neighborhood of $210 million, and they put all of that money on the screen for sure. Benedict Wong, Chiwetel Ejiofor, and Rachel McAdams are all stellar additions to this cast, and acquit themselves well as their characters, with Ejiofor in particular having an especially interesting setup for his fall from grace as Baron Mordo. I really do hope this is a thread that Sam Raimi and Kevin Feige pick up on again in Multiverse of Madness. Mads Mikkelsen's Caecilius has gotten a bum rap since 2016, and while I wouldn't call that unfair, I don't think he's one of the worst MCU villains there is. He has a pretty simple motivation. His family died, so he wants to make sure no one ever has to lose their family. Are a handful of people going to lose their family members in that quest? Well, yeah, but if he does what he's trying to do, hypothetically, those people could come back. And if that doesn't work, well, look at it this way. That's upwards of maybe 30 to 50 people compared to how many people that are actually on Earth, 7.9 billion? 7.6 when this movie came out. That's not even 0.1%. That's not even 0.01%. That seems like a pretty acceptable loss in the grand scheme of things when you really get down to it. Or at least it would seem like that to someone like Caecilius. Cons. In the comics, the Ancient One is a Tibetan man. He's a character very much rooted in this idea of Oriental mysticism, which is really not a great thing in 2022, and it wasn't any better in 2016. Naturally, the filmmakers and Kevin Feige all agreed this is a character that really needs an overhaul. Director and co-writer Scott Derrickson knew from the get-go that he wanted his film's Ancient One to be a woman, which I think is a terrific idea. I'm all for representation for Asian women. I think this would have been a great opportunity for an Asian actress. But this is where the problem comes in. Scott seemingly overthought things. He figured, okay, if I make this magical mentor figure an older Asian woman, then am I indulging in a dragon lady stereotype? I don't want to do that. But if I make her a younger Asian woman, am I making her some kind of fanboy dream girl, given how over-sexualized young Asian women can be? I don't want to do that either. And so he decided ultimately to make the Ancient One a Celt and cast the one and only Tilda Swinton to be the mentor to Doctor Strange. Now, Miss Swinton is an A-plus level actress, one of the best in the world, but this doesn't change the fact that she should not have been cast as this character. The film's other co-writer, C. Robert Cargill, argued that the casting for the Ancient One was a lose-lose situation no matter how you sliced it. Tibet is a part of the world that mainly exists inside the borders of what is modern-day China, and the people of this region view it as an independent country. The Chinese government, however, does not agree, and have been very clear about their disagreement, often violently so. And the world as a whole has collectively agreed China gets what China wants, but just because China says they want something doesn't mean they have to actually, but they don't have to take it, And due to China's status as the most populous country on Earth, Hollywood, particularly Disney and Marvel Studios, are very invested in making sure their films are allowed to be seen in that country because it means they're going to make a crapload of cash. So, doing a movie with a main character that says they're Tibetan? Not bueno. So, why not say they're just Chinese or even Indian, seeing this out? Tibet does mostly exist inside those two countries. Well, then you're going to get a lot of people giving you flack for being cowards and saying you should have just made them Tibetan. So, in the end, they decided, fuck it, they're a Celt. And while I can see Mr. Cargill's argument, I have to ask, if you were worried about the reaction, why not give this character to a black actress, or a Latina, or a Native American woman perhaps? Kevin Feige and Scott Derrickson made a mistake with their casting, and to their credit, they both owned up to it, with Derrickson conceding he might have chosen the lesser of two evils, but he still chose an evil option, and people who were upset about it should be upset. And Feige in recent years has stated that while they thought they were doing a smart thing at the time, looking back on it now, they could have easily cast an Asian talent without falling into stereotypes. In other words, if you want to write a diverse cast, but you're not sure you can do that without doing something ugly, try talking to people. Try actually talking to the people who you want to represent, because I guarantee you, they will know better about how they would want themselves and people like them to be represented in media than you would. That's just my thoughts. Overall, while Doctor Strange is a perfectly enjoyable film with nothing particularly wrong with it, there's also nothing of any particular greatness coming from it. It's good. It's not bad. It's arguably just decent, but it's not exactly great. If you're doing an MCU marathon, you won't regret skipping it, but you also won't regret not skipping it. I'm going to give Doctor Strange a 2.5 out of 5. Picking up sometime after the events of Avengers Endgame, WandaVision follows the title characters Wanda Maximoff and her husband the Vision on their own little journey through suburbia. But there's also some strange things going on here. The Vision has been dead for 5 years, and not in the way where he got to come back thanks to Dr. Banner snapping his fingers. He's been dead in an extremely permanent sense, and this journey through suburbia is also strangely idyllic. Almost like it was a television show. In fact, this show's first 3 episodes play less like episodes of Daredevil or Luke Cage, and more like episodes of Isla, Lucy, Bewitched, and the Brady Bunch. And as soon as you can wonder just what the hell is going on, the rug is pulled out from under you. This entire series has been taking place in a small town in New Jersey called Westview, and this town and the immediate area under the effects of Wanda's power. Wanda created a hexagonal dome covering the city that allows for her to create an ideal world where her loved ones are still alive, and she doesn't have to protect anyone but herself, her husband, and their children. Yes, that's right. The witch and the robot have spawned children who have powers of their own, it seems. You have Billy, a 10-year-old boy with the same magical power as his mother, and Tommy, also a 10-year-old boy with the same super speed powers as his late uncle Pietro. Speaking of Pietro, he's back too. Or so it seems. In actuality, this Pietro is a Westview resident under control of another witch named Agatha Harkness, who was drawn to Wanda's hexagon and was curious to find out exactly what Wanda was doing and how she was doing it, and why it was even being done at all. Wanda's answers to these questions turn out to be, IDK, I was depressed. IDK, I was depressed. And finally, IDK, I'm really depressed. Through her own deductions, though, Agatha determines that Wanda's power was always inherent, and that Hydra's experimenting on her with the Mind Stone didn't so much give her her powers as it did supercharge them. This, in fact, makes Wanda so powerful that she doesn't just use simple magic. She uses what is known as chaos magic, something so incredible it makes her just as, if not more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme, that at one time being Doctor Strange. This would make Wanda none other than the Scarlet Witch. Wanda and Agatha eventually face off in a battle, with Wanda coming out on top and taking possession of Agatha's magical text, the Dark Hold. Knowing that Agatha possesses knowledge that she'll likely need in the future, Wanda confines Agatha to Westview under the belief that she's simply Wanda's nosy neighbor Agnes. Then, having learned that forcing everyone in Westview to live under mental control was causing the people of Westview horrific mental and emotional pain, Wanda chooses to let go of her reality and bids farewell to her children and her recreation of Vision before departing for the Alaskan wilderness, where she studies from the Dark Hold to learn more of her own power and what it means exactly to be the Scarlet Witch. The series then ends with Wanda hearing the voices of Billy and Tommy, who were supposed to only be able to exist inside the hexagon. We'll be finding out where that leads in the very near future. Pros. This is undeniably Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany's best work as Wanda Maximoff and the Vision. Their chemistry as husband and wife is off the charts, their comedic timing is spectacular, and their more dramatic moments are all great too, whether it's the shouty Oscar clip stuff or the more subtle and tender moments. Well done, guys. I'm really looking forward to more. The show's actual exploration of grief and trauma through the lens of essentially comfort media is especially poignant. Wanda lost her parents at a very young age, then she lost her twin brother when she was only 26, and then had to move to a completely different country and then assume the immense responsibility of saving the lives of others, and then having to deal with the consequences of when you screw that up. And then not long after, she had to go on the run from the US government and had to witness the death of the man she loves twice in a matter of minutes. And then she freaking died herself, but unlike everyone else, she actually got to come back. That's gonna weigh heavily on your mind. And then, thanks to the jerks at S.W.O.R.D., she can't even give Vision a proper burial. That's enough to drive anyone insane. And so, Wanda retreats into her favorite shows. But with her phenomenal cosmic power, she turns the same world around her into the same reality as her favorite TV shows. And you can see her steadily have to come to terms with the fact that she can't just shut out the world around her. Eventually, you have to turn off the TV and live your life. And I think this is well exemplified by the fact that the media she bases Westview on becomes steadily more and more recent, more contemporary, until she finally lets it all go and the real world finally comes back. It's drab, it's gray, it's dreary, but it's the real world, and Wanda's finally decided she needs to come back to it. Kathryn Hahn as Agatha Harkness is an immediate show stealer. Before she even reveals herself as Agatha, her Agnes persona is just delightful. And when she finally turns it on as Agatha, you completely believe that while she might not be the strongest in the room, she's undeniably the smartest. And I especially love the moment in the finale when Wanda permanently turns Agatha into Agnes, and Kathryn Hahn just switches back into a sitcom character like nothing. Again, I just love it so much, and I'm really looking forward to this character's spin-off show. While I really can't stand what ultimately came of it on the show, Evan Peters did a really terrific job as Pietro. He has not missed a beat since his last appearance in 2019's Dark Phoenix. The young actors who play Billy and Tommy are terrific, especially the boy who portrays Billy. I think that kid has a bright future ahead of him if he wants to keep acting. The various TV themes from Robert and Kristen Anderson-Lopez are really terrific. They each brilliantly capture the vibe of every single era of television that each episode is trying to mimic. It's just incredibly entertaining. The production design by Mark Worthington as well is another brilliant aspect of this show. You don't often think about the production design in film and television. You just sort of take advantage of the fact that this is the world you're going to be living in for the next 22 minutes to 3 hours, depending on what you want to watch. But this guy and his crew had to completely alter each and every set to match whatever era of television was being imitated. They're not even imitating the eras themselves. They're specifically imitating the eras of television. They're not mimicking what a bedroom looked like in the 1950s. They're mimicking what a bedroom looked like on television in the 1950s. And to me, that just seems really impressive. And same again with the costumes from Maya C. Rubio. Her work on the series was particularly fantastic. All of these costumes are so, well, they look great, but also they just really do a great job of capturing the eras they're trying to portray. Again, well done, ma'am. I didn't mention them all during the plot summary, but Tiana Paris, Randall Park, and Kat Dennings were all especially great as Sword Agent Monica Rambeau, FBI Agent Jay Woo, and Dr. Darcy Lewis. They were all spectacular. I'm very interested in particular to see Miss Paris as Agent Rambeau again in the upcoming The Marvels film that's set to come out next year. I especially like how Monica relates to Wanda because she's forcing herself to keep on living when between being erased by Thanos and then being brought back to life by the Hulk, her mother died from cancer. She has some idea of what it's like to grieve and have that feeling of despair just gnaw at you. And she really admits if she were in Wanda's shoes, she might just do the same thing she did. Credit to her. Cons. What the hell was the point of the Ralph Bohner thing? You want to bring back Pietro. Awesome. You want to say that this guy isn't actually Pietro, it's a lie created by Agatha. That sounds great. Bring back Aaron Taylor Johnson, and when the illusion is dropped, bring in some other guy as the Ralph character. Don't just cast an actor who portrayed Pietro Maximoff in a different franchise. That's a decision specifically made to drive up fan speculation, to make people believe that Evan Peters is reprising his role from the X-Men films, and then reveal that he's just some guy named Ralph Bohner. That isn't subverting expectations, blatantly lying to the audience. And it kind of fucks up what is the situation in the show, to be honest, because why would Wanda think this guy is her brother? He looks nothing like the man that was her brother. Evan Peters does not look very much like Aaron Taylor Johnson at all. I don't know whether this was showrunner Jack Schaefer's idea or Kevin Feige's, but this was a really bad move on everyone's part, and it really should have been considered more before they went through with it. While it's perfectly entertaining, after WandaVision's stellar 8 episodes that featured almost no action sequences whatsoever, unless you want to count Agatha choking Billy and Tommy and Wanda squaring up with her in the middle of her driveway, it was a little disappointing to see the finale switch back to the standard people in costumes throwing cars and punching each other, or just throwing balls of light at one another. I'm not sure I would have ended the show differently, but I would have been interested to see if Miss Schaefer had any other ideas for the finale that just didn't pan out because this show is still set in the MCU. Overall, despite my quibbles with the finale, WandaVision was a spectacular piece of television, and probably the best bit of TV produced by Marvel Studios since Daredevil Season 3. It's a truly wonderful exploration of grief and trauma and struggling to accept and move on from those things, and I really enjoyed watching this show week to week and speculating about what comes next with my friends who also love Marvel, and I still really enjoyed it immensely rewatching it for this review. Just a really good show. So I'm going to give WandaVision a 4.5 out of 5. So yeah, this is all you really need for Multiverse of Madness besides Spider-Man No Way Home. Most likely, you got a decent-ish Marvel movie and a pretty darn great miniseries. Let's see what we find on May 5th, and let's have some fun. In the meantime, please check out some of my previous reviews. I just did videos discussing the Spider-Man franchise and the Home Alone series right before the new year. I've done videos discussing the Venom films and most entries in the DCEU, and pretty much every Star Wars film released under Disney. Check all of those out, and then come back for my video discussing the MCU's Phase 1, and then I'm going to be mixing up things some by talking about something else entirely that I'll wait until the next video to tell you all about. Thank you for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this review, and if you did, like this video, comment your own thoughts, and subscribe to my channel. Have a great day, everyone. Woodstock out.